Hi, everyone. We'll just wait for people to join in as the attendee number gets up. We'll give it about 20 more seconds and then we'll get started. All right. I think 100 is going to be the sweet spot when I start. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, let's get going. So, welcome everyone to today's segment on careers in digital as part of the Federal Youth Network's Career Showcase. My name is Yanni Siuk, and I will be moderating today's event. Before we start, I'd like to begin by acknowledging that I'm here on the traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe people. The Algonquin peoples have lived on this land since time immemorial, and I encourage all of you to acknowledge the land you're on as well from wherever you're viewing this event. So today's segment on careers in digital aims to provide you with a view to another potential career path available to you in the federal public service. A career in the federal public service is long, and you're likely to jump around in multiple roles, topics, and subjects as you make your way towards eventual retirement. So far, through the Career Showcase series, we've had a myriad of different sessions covering careers in science, communications, human resources, and more. Today's session on digital comes at a time where all you hear about on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram is data, digital information, AI, ChatGPT, and AI. We've gathered a wonderful group of federal public servants here, Heidi Wang, Karen Fraser, and Christina Sear, who've been in the digital space for quite some time and can shed some light on their unique roles and positions. As we move through today's session, please share your questions by using the Q&A button in the language of your choice, and you can also upvote as well. So before we begin, we're going to start with a fun little poll to get everybody going. So let's get that up there and get some responses. So the first question is, what field or profession do you currently work in? The second one is, if you could switch to any job within the GC for a day, what would it be? And the third is, what motivates you most in your career? Let's give everybody about 20 seconds to respond, and then we'll summarize the results. Okay, let's see the results of the poll. All right, so what field profession do you currently work in? So it looks like from among those that we can actually select, a lot of folks are from HR and policy. Many of you are from other professions. Interested to know what those are. In terms of the second question, if you could switch to any job within the GC for a day, what would it be? A lot of people want to be intelligence analysts. That's very interesting. Policy analysts and space agency scientists. That was also a popular response. And then the third question, what motivates you most in your career? Learning and growth opportunities. That's awesome because learning is a constant part of being part of the federal public service. And then as well, I think this is really important, work-life balance and flexibility. So now I'm going to turn to the agenda and talk a little bit about housekeeping information. So in terms of how this session is going to be structured, I'll go through housekeeping items after this slide, and then we're going to go through some awesome topics. So one is exploring career paths in the GC. A second topic is, what do those working in digital do? We have a lot of panelists here who have a lot of experience in different areas in the digital space. We want to give everyone here an opportunity to understand what those are. We'll also talk about some of the qualifications and competencies, and then we're going to do a little bit of a QA as well. Throughout this whole thing, you're going to be learning from the experiences of the panelists and hopefully get a little bit of a deeper view into what everyone is doing on a day-to-day basis. Next, in terms of housekeeping, so all attendee microphones and cameras are deactivated. The chat is disabled for attendees, but we're going to be using it to send you resources. Please use the Q&A button to ask your questions, and then you can thumbs up the questions you like. And when we go into the QA session, we're going to try to answer as many as we can. I will note that this session is going to be delivered in English. There is a follow-up session in French from 2:30 to 3:30. And then lastly, all the sessions are being recorded and it's going to be available on the FYN YouTube channel 24 hours following this session. So before continuing to talk about learning objectives, I want to introduce myself a little bit to you. So my name is Yanni Siuk. I'm a senior analyst and team lead at Innovation Science and Economic Development Canada. And my team focuses on what we understand as data engineering and data visualization projects. For those of you who may not be aware of what that is, it's basically taking data, whether it be numbers, words, from across the department, cleaning it up and preparing it. And essentially what our team does is we try to create, best way to think about it is like apps on your phone, where you can go into something like, let's say some of you might be using MyFitnessPal to track some of your fitness metrics. We kind of try to do that with Government of Canada data so that people who are non-technical, they can take the data and be able to understand some of the important metrics and insights with a vision to supporting decision-making, for example, about a program we fund. In terms of the skill set required, I think many of you might be coming into the session thinking that the digital employment and the digital jobs are highly technical. They are, but there are a lot of soft skills required as well that you can leverage. So things like team building, being able to communicate, being able to write. One of the reasons why I wanted to introduce myself before we continue is that I think many of you might be coming from maybe an educational background or experience that you might not think would allow you to transition into the digital field. I want you to know that the digital field is for anyone. So whether you have a computer science degree or a history degree, you're part of it if you want to be. As a good example, myself. So I studied political science first, and then I came to Ottawa to study international affairs. And initially, my vision was to become a diplomat. I wanted to work in Asia, and that never panned out. I ended up during COVID learning, teaching myself how to code, teaching myself some programming languages, how to do data visualization. And then through mentorship, another theme I want to highlight for you, reached out to my mentor, who's the chief data officer, joined her team, and now I'm completely in the digital world and kind of in this space now. So that's one of the themes I want to highlight for you is don't count yourself out. If you're willing to learn the technical skills, you can join this field as well. As one last thing as well related to experience, maybe some of you might think that you don't have the job qualifications, the internships, the previous job experience to do this. Just so you're aware, myself, I think I was flipping burgers through my whole bachelor's degree. And then in my master's degree, I was doing not even audit or evaluation, but the in-between audit and evaluation. And, the data space still welcomed me. So with that, that's a little bit about me. I think we should turn now to some of the learning objectives. So here are the 5 learning objectives that we hope through all of the presentations that you're going to be able to access. So one is identifying a variety of career paths available within the federal public service with respect to the digital area. Next is kind of understanding the day-to-day responsibilities of digital professionals. What are they doing? What are the tasks that they're responsible for? Next is qualifications, experiences, and competencies that you might need to pursue particular digital careers. As well, engaging with experienced public service servants. We have an awesome panel with a variety of different experiences to gain practical insights on their personal perspectives to support your career development. And then lastly, very important is kind of that networking and mentorship opportunities, kind of highlight the importance of that if you choose to pursue a digital career path. So now I think we'll transition to learning from others in the field, and each speaker is kind of going to go through a specific topic. Maybe now I can turn it over to Karen Fraser, who will speak to you. Karen? Oh, your mic is muted, Karen.
Off to a good start. Sorry about that. Can you hear me well?
Yep, you're good.
Okay, perfect. So hi, everyone. I'm filling in for Isa, David, who's my colleague. So essentially, I'm currently a manager for the digital recruitment team at Treasury Board. And basically, we do recruitment on behalf of the digital community, which includes over 60 different federal departments and agencies. I've been a public servant for over 16 years now. Time sure does fly by quickly. And so specializing in recruitment for the past 10 years, and more specifically in digital recruitment for the past 8 years. Another thing I could say about myself is that what I enjoy the most in my role, I think, is helping good, talented people find roles that they're interested in. So happy to be here with you today. Okay. So building your path. To pursue a career in digital in the GC, there are a variety of entry points, each with specific educational and experience requirements. IT roles. So this is under the IT group, which used to be the CS group, and a few organizations still do have the CS group. So this typically requires completion of a 2-year post-secondary program in computer science, IT, or a related discipline, or a combination of education and experience at a manager's discretion. The EC group. Roles generally require a degree in economics, sociology, or statistics. Then we have the AS and PM roles that may require a secondary school diploma or an employer-approved alternative. And then we have the EG group, which also requires a secondary school diploma with additional specialized training for roles like meteorological technicians. So a few things to note here. Alongside formal education, transferable skills and core competencies are key, particularly analytical thinking, communication, collaboration, and adaptability are high valued across digital roles. Bilingualism is often considered an asset, particularly in roles that involve public engagement or leadership, and especially within the National Capital Region. Then we have leadership competencies, including strategic thinking, engagement, and people management. These also become increasingly important as you progress in your career. Next slide, please. Okay, so recently the GC introduced 6 digital competencies for all public servants, which are the key skills that all public servants need to thrive in a digital era government. These competencies are cybersecurity vigilance. So it's about taking personal responsibility to protect data, information, and systems, following cybersecurity best practices, and applying departmental standards consistently in your day-to-day work. Then we have digital literacy. The focus is on understanding and using modern tools, technologies, and approaches to improve how we work. Next is inclusive interactions. This means making sure that everything we create, from documents to communications, services, is accessible, inclusive, and equitable for everyone. We have continuous improvement. A key part of digital work is ongoing learning and collaboration. This competency encourages us to seek feedback, solve problems as they arise, and always look for ways to work more efficiently. Next is information and data stewardship. This is about managing and using information and data in thoughtful, organized ways. And lastly, digital responsibility. It's all about using digital tools in a safe and ethical way. It's about being thoughtful with technology, like considering privacy, ethics, and the broader impact of our choices. These competencies were developed with input from over 10,000 public servants and align with global best practices. There are already more than 55 learning opportunities aligned with these competencies, all available through the Canada School of Public Service. Next slide, please. Okay, so the digital community in the GC refers to the network of public servants working in information, data, technology, and design roles who collaborate to modernize government services, enhance digital capabilities, and drive innovation. This community is quite broad and includes technology specialists, data specialists, including analysts and scientists, product managers, UX designers, cybersecurity experts, library services professionals, digital policy advisors, and other professionals who contribute to the development or delivery of GC digital initiative, service, or product. Within the digital community, there are several domain-specific communities that support specialized areas, including communities focused on data, information management, user experience, cybersecurity, and more. It's also important to note that strong digital skills are in high demand, not only across the GC, but across all sectors. Some of the top digital skill gaps in the GC include application development, cloud platform configuration, DevOps, risk assessment, and agile methodologies. These skills are highly sought after by hiring managers, and building strong skills in these areas can help position you more competitively for opportunities in these digital roles. Okay, so we have 4 steps here. So first, for everyone listening today, start by building your foundational digital competencies. Explore the 6 digital competencies for public servants by checking out the Digital Competencies Playbook and reading articles and taking courses from the Canada School of Public Service. These resources are a great starting point to strengthen your awareness and confidence in working in a digital environment. Second, if you're interested in a digital or tech role, create a profile on the GC Digital Talent Platform. This platform connects you to digital and tech opportunities across the GC. You can apply to roles, take part in assessments if you have the right qualifications, and if successful, join a pre-qualified talent pool that managers across departments and agencies can access when hiring for digital or tech roles. Third, if you're interested in a tech role and you're Indigenous, there's a tailored opportunity through the IT Apprenticeship Program for Indigenous peoples. It's a 24-month entry-level placement where you'll get hands-on experience, learn alongside a peer partner, and follow a self-paced training plan designed to support your growth in the IT field. And finally, if you're currently an IT classified employee, you can deepen your skills through the IT Community Training and Development Fund, which provides access to self-paced learning, instructor-led training, and certifications. Funded through a $4.75 million annual investment with Treasury Board and the Union of IT Employees, it supports the continued professional development of IT professionals in the GC. Thank you.
All right, I think I'm up. Sorry, Yanni, I think you were.
Oh, no, it's okay. Go ahead, Heidi.
All right, I got too excited. I was gonna say, I actually started in 2014, and my very first day on the job, I did some mail outs. So I folded letters into thirds, and I can still do that without measuring. So if that tells you how much we've changed in terms of the digital space in the last couple of years, that's kind of it. And then actually all of the letters I folded up, they were all ripped open again for quality assurance. So that was a fun first day. So hi, everybody. My name is Heidi. And right now I'm a free agent as part of the Canada Free Agents. I'm on assignment at the Canada School of Public Service, where I am getting to turn kind of my background in creativity, data, and storytelling and digital government, and turning those into learning products and some community engagement. And as part of that, the project I'm working on right now is building a kind of a knowledge graph ontology around what we understand to be the Government of Canada policy environment. It's kind of, I don't want to get in too much into the weeds this early, but essentially the point is to try and constrain and unconstrain AI in the future. So that's some fun stuff coming down the pipe. But one of my favorite things about working kind of in the digital and data space is just how much I get to learn. And that's what Yanni said earlier, how much learning and growing that there is, and how many varieties of files that you can end up working on. So actually over the last 11 years, I've worked in 5 federal departments. I did everything from quality assuring applications that were submitted by the public, all the way to tracking the $6 billion investment in First Nations infrastructure at Indigenous Canada, or Indigenous Service Canada. And also, I guess we could tell the stories about the COVID-19 response, which probably added an additional 10 years to my life. That was, we did some really interesting forecasting, supply and demand modeling around the personal protective equipment, vaccine supplies. So lots of really cool and interesting files to really sink your teeth into and some real problems to solve. And I think that's my big takeaway from my career is just I like Annie, I don't have an IT background. It was really because I got on the job and I found problems to solve that I started to pursue the kind of learning that I needed to be able to move into the data space. And maybe I actually will jump to the next slide and kind of tell this story simultaneously to kind of what are some of the general career paths in the GC. So like Annie mentioned, it's kind of everyone. You know, we're in an age where everyone's talking about AI and digital stuff everywhere. So right now, our current classification system hasn't really changed to accommodate for all of the range of work. So we talked about IT, computer systems, EC, AS. These are kind of the three classification where the bulk of the jobs are right now, but there's a ton of other roles which have a big digital component that are not referenced here. So I'll mention that I myself, although right now I am in the EC classification, I actually started my career and I spent the first 5 years as a PM. So I was supporting the delivery of programs in a public-facing department. The difference between ASs and PMs would just be: are you serving other public servants or are you serving the public? And now I am in the EC role, which I think we mentioned some of the education requirements earlier. So because my undergraduate degree is in political science, it doesn't actually meet the standards for the education requirements right away. And so I have to write a 3-page long thing explaining that I took 3 courses in economics at one point, and I have some on-the-job experience in statistics that I bring also to that field. So I'm happy to talk about that as well and that pivot. But I think these are sort of the ranges, and in terms of what you could work on, there's sort of everything ranging from building the actual computer systems to the cybersecurity, cloud services, software development, to data science, artificial intelligence. That's kind of the space that both Yanni and I are in, the data analytics, machine learning, predictive modeling. There's kind of a space opening now, especially with sort of rapid AI adoption, of governing AI, figuring out what rules we need to be able to use it safely and responsibly. So I think that's a big emergent area, if that's an area of passion for you, especially looking at ethical development and Indigenous data sovereignty. UX design, service design, we need to figure out how to get people end-to-end smoothly through our services and programs. Digital product management, cybersecurity, digital trust. I think there's a lot of room, I think. And I think if we go to the next slide, even if you're not formally in a job that has sort of digital or AI or data in the title, there's also lots of ways to get involved in the community and contribute to shaping kind of this ecosystem. So the first thing you can check out is on GC Exchange, the GC digital community. That's where you can find out about upcoming events, job opportunities on the talent platform, and also resources for career development. I'll give a plug for my current team, which is the GC Data Community team, and we do the newsletter, so you can subscribe to our newsletter, and you can join us every February for the GC Data Conference. This year is the 10th Data Conference, so you can see how long we've been up to this whole data stuff. As well, if you want to actually contribute to some enterprise level solutions around like how we're approaching data information, you can join the Community of Practice on Data and Information. I'm the co-chair for People and Culture, so I think you should join that one. I think it's the best one. But there's about 8 other working groups, all developing products that are some of which have made its way into TBS policy. So it's a really exciting opportunity, even if you're not already directly in the field, to be able to play a role. So I think I'll leave it there for now, and I'll pass it on to Christina.
Thanks, Heidi. So you actually reminded me that my first job in the government was something similar of organizing a physical file room with hundreds of files and putting them into new file folders for an entire summer. So we've definitely moved on from that, which is great to see. So my name is Christina Cyr. I'm the Chief of Staff to the Chief Technology Officer at Shared Services Canada. So for those who don't know, SSC is responsible for providing information technology services to the rest of the government. So that means that our clients are other federal departments. We do everything from running data centers across the country, networking equipment, Wi-Fi, Microsoft 365, which you would all use on a daily basis, cell phones, tablets. We also get to work on really cool projects with other departments. Let's say robotics operations on board the International Space Station, Department of National Defense's satellite network so that ships can communicate around the world. Environment Canada's supercomputer helps predict the weather. Don't get mad if it's not, perfect each day, but then in my area, I support the Chief Technology Officer. So he's responsible for providing strategic leadership and direction on all things tech. But we also have some exciting files to do with AI, cybersecurity, quantum, data, all of that. So my role is really just to provide strategic advice to him and also manage the office. It's a role that I really enjoy because I feel it's a mix of two distinct roles of kind of the administrative services AS category and also the EC category and providing that strategic advice. So it's something that I really enjoy. I don't have a digital background, but I started my career in the GC as a student, got bridged in, and eventually landed at SSC, where I've been for the last 10 years. But I've worked in everything from procurement, data. I supported the Women in STEM network that some people may be familiar with that is now across government. I chaired a young professional network, advised in the president's office, and now have landed in this role. So a fun fact about my career is that I've actually worked in 5 different classifications. So, CR, AS, PG, FB, EC, I think those 5. And I feel like it's really important to note that because you're often told as you're starting your career to pick one and assume that that's going to be your classification for the rest of your career. And you're just going to kind of climb the ladder and eventually make it to the EX. But I'm a really strong believer in following your interests, following great bosses and taking opportunities to learn and skill up. And I've had no issues, in my own career of kind of making those jumps between the classifications. So I really wanted to touch on that. But let's move to the next slide and talk about what professionals working in digital do. So at its core, working in digital is really about creating human-centered, trusted solutions that improve how the Government of Canada delivers services. So some of the key roles that support that, there's the advising senior leadership, helping them make smart decisions that drive meaningful improvements in services for Canadians. There's designing for users. The goal is always to build digital services that are accessible, secure, and focus on the actual needs of Canadians. Developing and maintaining digital infrastructure and platforms from cloud services, cybersecurity, ensuring that the backbone of government operations are strong and adequate and ready for any challenges. We've got using data and AI to provide insights and improve service delivery, ensuring compliance in digital standards and policies, including accessibility, privacy, security. And most importantly, we don't work alone. So collaboration is key. Digital professionals team up with policymakers, program staff, service delivery experts to create inclusive, efficient, and scalable solutions. So whether you're a coder, a designer, a strategist, or an analyst, work in digital creates real impacts for Canadians. You're not just building products, you're building trust, improving services, and shaping the way the government works for everyone. So I think I'll turn it back over to Yanni.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Heidi, Corinne, and Christina for those awesome presentations. Hopefully everyone learned a lot. I think now we'll turn to the Q&A portion. We did have some pre-prepared questions, but because there's 7 questions, we're going to go there. So let me start with the first one. So let's go by the most upvoted one. So we'll start with this first. For those of us who are considering to pivot to the digital space and would like to try out different subfields to figure out if we can contribute to the organization, how should we pitch and market ourselves to the hiring managers to land the opportunity? Christina, Heidi, or Corinne, do either of you want to take this awesome question on first?
Maybe I'll jump in because I made this pivot on the job, and I think that's really where my advice would be: don't look for a new job, do it in your current job. I think this is where the way I got into the data field is because my manager handed me a spreadsheet one day and said, "Can you count how many people are in these categories and enter it into this Word document?" And I said, "That can't be the way we do this." And you're laughing because you've heard the story before. And so I went very deep down into a rabbit hole of figuring out how I would do this automatically. So I think there's nothing stopping you from looking around and seeing what problems are kind of around you ready to be solved, that you can make people's lives easier and in that process build up your skills. And so I think, you know, some straightforward Excel automations is a great way to start. Picking up some Power BI. There are things that you can learn just from Googling it from YouTube that will be a good place. And then you kind of find yourself in this area where there's emergent skills. So I think that's my recommendation. Instead of looking outward, look in and see what you could solve today using digital solutions.
Yeah, just to build off of that, Heidi, in my opinion, every team across the GOC has an Excel file that's a mess. So like for me, I just picked up like a random Excel file and I was like, oh, I'm just gonna make this work. Like I'm gonna make this a project and reach out to the manager, be like, I'm gonna clean this up. And then that leads to, you know, you can apply some skills. But that's a great point. Corinne, Christina, do either of you have any input on this question you'd like to share?
Yeah, I think from my perspective, I'm always a big fan of if you're feeling like you don't necessarily have the skills at the time, or you're talking to a hiring manager and they're wishing that you had a bit more, you know, experience in something. There are ways to gain that experience, kind of like Heidi said, in your current role, but by looking through different like working groups, networks within your organizations or across the GC. A lot of these volunteer groups will have opportunities for you to jump in and help, you know, with a project or a program that they're trying to launch, where they might be looking to, you know, utilize some of those skills and also gain that experience of actually putting on, you know, a GC wide program.
Yeah, that makes sense. And just to build off that, Christina, like even if there's no, let's say there is a situation where like you don't have a thing in your work that you can fix, at least in the digital space, in my experience, like building a portfolio outside of work can help. I know a lot of us are strapped for time, but if you have time, like for example, in my case, you know, taking a public data set and building a dashboard, there you already have a project and you can share it around. And that for me, that kind of became the way I sold myself to managers. But that's awesome. Corinne, did you have anything you'd like to add?
No, just that I totally agree. Like I know one of my slides was a lot kind of about education, but there's always, I'm a strong believer in the like acceptable combination, right? So it's always at the manager's discretion. But like experience and training and like you say, like self-taught and doing things on your own is definitely worth a lot, I think. And I find more and more hiring managers are more looking at people's soft skills, right? Like technical, that kind of thing, or especially if you're willing to learn on your own and you're someone who works hard, that can be taught. I think soft skills is a big one that people look at. So that being said, absolutely, like what you've mentioned, to be able to try to get into the digital field and taking initiative and doing things on your own, or like trying to find different groups to gain those skills and that knowledge can definitely help you, you know, in the right direction if you do want to follow a digital career.
Could I just add one more thing?
Yeah, go ahead, Heidi.
So just to say, I would say I'm probably not the best coder in the world. I learned just enough just to be able to put what's in my brain out onto the paper. But the thing that I think has gotten me very far is being able to translate that for people who are not confident in the field. And so I think there's this area of science communication, making sure that people understand what it is that they're signing off on. That is a huge area. And I think also you end up being put out there a lot if you're the only non-shy one in a data team. So you end up being the chair of a lot of things or being volunteered to do a lot of leadership stuff if you're willing to sort of chit chat with people when most people would kind of rather be heads down on their coding. So I think it's like if you're drawn to that and you're happy to learn those technical skills, but you want to put a bit of effort into learning how to well communicate some of these really highly technical topics. I think that's an area where we need a lot more people to be able to support on.
No, Heidi, that's such a good point, because I always tell my team, I say, like, you guys are so skilled, you got all these technical skills, but like you got to speak up, you got to sell yourself, to get those promotions, those opportunities. But that's a really good point. It's kind of related to this. We'll go to the next question. So in terms of skill development, what is your first reflex when searching for ways to increase your skills? What learning and training opportunities jump to your mind? Heidi, Christina, Karen, feel free.
Jump in. I think there's so much out there available to public servants right now. Obviously the first things that come to mind are the Canada School of Public Service and what they offer. But I think that individually departments are really looking at, providing different programs to their employees right now. I know that, for example, at SSC, we offer internal programs to accelerate digital skills in cloud, cyber, and data for both technical but also non-technical employees. So we're really looking to upskill the employees that we currently have. And I think that you'll see that around, but I would say also use your learning plan, like really talk to your managers, talk to mentors and people around your organization to find out what either they've done or what they're doing, because there's so much available and sometimes it's hard to find it.
No, that's great, Christina. Heidi or Karen, do you have any experiences you'd like to share in terms of how you've developed some skills and trained yourself?
Yeah, maybe I'll speak to my own, because just for your knowledge, I identify as a neurodivergent employee. So a lot of these like formal training opportunities don't really work for the way my brain works. And so a lot of times I'm looking at ways to teach myself a lot of these things. And I think one of the things that I know I'm best, there's two things that I think has greatly improved my ability to learn. First is learning how to read. And I know that sounds silly, but learning how to read was something I did not know how to do properly in university. Once I learned how to read again, and I'll explain this more, that really changed my ability to retain information. And so when I say learning how to read, I mean, you don't have to read word for word, but to be able to read a document, extrapolate the key points and link it to the other areas of knowledge that you already have. So being able to connect things that other people are not able to connect, I think that was a big part of and now what I do every day is I read broadly. I look at news journal articles, newspapers. I look at what's out there in the field. So it's sort of a way of discovering what kind of the rabbit holes you can fall down. Because I think a lot of times I find some of these formal training courses, they're sort of telling you what you should be interested in. And I'm frankly not interested. So I really am going out there to seek the things that would really like speak to my brain and make me want to be in that space. And so I think reading broadly, but reading correctly, not trying to like digest every word and like pick up on every nuance, but just sort of pulling information in, putting it onto your like knowledge shelf until one day that it's until you can connect it one day. I also, I've been building a bit of like a second brain, like note-taking system. So I won't get into that all that much, but just like keeping track of the knowledge that you're building, these little pieces. And, because I think some of my best ideas come from bringing together two completely unrelated things that that other people wouldn't have thought of because they weren't interested in those random niche areas that I happened to have read an article in 6 months ago, right? So I think that that's kind of how I do it on a sort of daily basis rather than sort of seeking out kind of formal courses or training. It's also free, which is nice. So I don't have to spend as much money on courses because of it. Just always learning from what's there. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome, Heidi. And to build off of that, like, because you're saying learning how to read. So I would say like learning how to learn, because and everybody's different. So everybody have like may have weird quirks. So like for me, my learning how to learn is like I have to talk to myself. So like it's very like energy intensive, but like I read something and I go away and I come back and I talk to myself as if I'm teaching somebody else. And that for learning technical skills, especially if you were not in the space, like you didn't learn computer science, you didn't do engineering. I feel like for me, it allows me to make those connections, right? And to learn a little bit quicker. So I really like what you said there. Karen, do you have anything you'd like to add on skill development training?
Yeah, so I think I'm a bit on the opposite side, right? So I work for the recruitment team. So I spend my days, assessing candidates, assessing skills. We're the ones who post jobs on the GC Digital Talent platform. And I think I totally agree what you guys are saying is that, like, one, if you know there's a field you're interested in, see what those skills are, see what people are looking for. And then two, find an interesting way of learning those skills, right? Like you said, like whatever works for you to learn them. Conventional education isn't always the most, appealing for everyone, and I totally agree. Because what I like about what we're doing now is that I think if you think of how things worked previously in the federal government, or more traditionally, that people look at experience a lot, which is unfortunate, right? Because it's hard. How are you supposed to get a job if you need to have the experience all the time before you get that job? But all our recruitment is skills based. So I think as long as you establish what you're interested in and find a way to learn those skills, you're on the right path and you'll be able to get that opportunity that you're looking for.
That's great, Corinne. Thanks. And I'll just add on a couple things. So for me, for learning, if you're already a public servant, the one I find the most, and most of my team have this, is we've got a training pass to something like Coursera, where you can access everything. And generally, our team, we don't like the go to U Ottawa for one day. Somebody talks to you, you fall asleep. We would prefer an annual pass. And most of us just do about 15 to 30 minutes a day in whatever area we are trying to upskill. And I think it's about $600 a year. I mean, like they should pay for it, right? So we learn that way. And most of us are just self-taught through YouTube, ChatGPT, and also lots of free learning online. I always say this, people ask me, oh, Yanni, how do I upskill in dashboarding? My general response now is there's so much resources out there. It's just about finding some time and committing to it, right, on a daily basis and upskilling. There's no lack of resources, in my opinion. So let's go to a second question here. It's kind of related, but I think we're still going to ask it because we have a lot of people on this panel who might be able to speak to it. So for the most requested skills, if we are self-taught and not certified, meaning we don't have a certificate or diploma, or possess extensive knowledge on a topic, but we possess extensive knowledge on a topic, but not practical experience, how can we successfully convince a hiring manager to take a chance with us? Anybody want to grab that and give it a little bit of a response? Heidi, maybe I'll start with you because you said you didn't have a background, you kind of self-taught. So,
yeah. Well, so I guess I'm just thinking of like, what are the ways that you would show someone that you have extensive knowledge? So I guess one of the things that I did early on was figure out what's the most effective way to present my work because I wasn't always very comfortable talking about myself. I think we mentioned earlier that learning to talk about your work is a big part of actually the work. I think that's a mistake I made earlier on is thinking that if I put my head down and just work quietly that people would notice. And I think what I realized is like people are busy, you need to kind of talk to people about what you're doing and how you're doing it. And so that's one thing. But if you're not sort of able to sort of sell yourself as you go, the way that I approached it when I first started, so when I first started to kind of move around a lot in the government, was to put together a portfolio. So I kind of did kind of a presentation deck that I would send out and also present during interviews that talked about a research project that I did, and some snapshots of kind of what it looked like. So I think so in my specific case, it was examples of dashboards that I built. And I think I would just sort of nuance that. I think there's a lot of templates out there, but a lot of times what you want to show is how you think through problems. And so one of the things that I did with that portfolio was talk about, okay, what was the problem that I wanted to solve? How did I go about thinking through those problems? And then what was the conclusion and what did I learn from it? And I think that a lot of the digital, it's always about solving a problem that exists, right? So it's not so much the actual products themselves, but showing your ability to think through those problems and then apply a technical solution to it, even if you're not the one doing it yourself, but coordinating it. So one of the ones that I use in my portfolio, I talked about a project that I worked on with data scientists from StatsCan, but we talked about how I played a role in sort of unpacking some of the technical things and explaining it to people, figuring out what the features that are needed, and things like that. And so I think those are some of the things that you may want to tease out. I think it's going to be hard to demonstrate that without something though. I don't know if you can just tell someone you have a lot of knowledge. I think you probably want something to sort of show it. It doesn't matter if it's a piece of paper, but maybe what are some projects? Maybe put out some writing. Because I on a daily basis read so much, I think for a while I'm not so good at maintaining it, but I wrote a blog about what I was reading and what I took away from it. So those are just sort of ways where you can show people your work and your capacity to think, and without necessarily needing a certificate or a diploma to prove that. And I mean, honestly, I would say based on some of my class scores in university, the diploma doesn't really say that much about my ability to do work nowadays, right? So I think that's kind of my thing, is think of how you would show it in a product, right? Because the people you're talking to, they don't know you. So you can't just say, hey, believe me. Okay, well, show it in your writing, show it in posts, show it in products that you've made, different, getting creative with some of those things.
Yeah, just to build off of that real quick, Heidi, I would say, if you have the knowledge, especially in the digital space, you got to find a way to translate that to something tangible. So for example, if you have a lot of data engineering knowledge, if you come in, I would like to see an example of you creating a database. Maybe you could show me what tools you used, what code you were using. If you say that you're in data visualization, I'd like to see a dashboard, and maybe just a quick story of one of our junior analysts. So one of our junior analysts was like me, a poli-sci student, self-taught into computing science. We hired him to build the entire backend, data engineering backend for one of our programs, him and another person. And the reason we hired him is because he had not the educational background, but he had a portfolio available. And he continued to upskill, and he doesn't, well, I mean, this is about retention, but he doesn't even work for us anymore. He works in the private sector now, but it's all about him being able to show at each stage of his career, I have something tangible where I took my practical knowledge and I built something. So maybe Corinne and Christina, do you have anything you'd like to add to this awesome question?
I think definitely with how the federal government works, right, you always start with an application if you're applying to a process. So even on the GC Digital Talent Platform, I'm not sure if everyone's familiar with it. It's a different approach than applying on GC Jobs. It's meant to be more user-friendly, and it's all skills-based. But number one, whenever you submit something, it's an application, right? So the first step is always to be screened. And so as Heidi was saying, it's super important to be able to explain things well, right? To talk about what you do, how you met your goals, the projects that you did that let you gain those skills. So I think that's number one for sure, because if sometimes people assume like, oh, let's say someone applies and they've been a government employee for a long time. They're like, oh, I'll just like put what's in my CV and that should be sufficient. They'll see I'm at this level. No, it's not like you really need to describe it in words to start off how you do have those skills and how you've demonstrated them on the specific projects and what you did. So I think number one, it is very important to be able to describe in detail how you do meet a certain skill. So that's, yeah, definitely number one. I think that's really important. And then after that, well, let's say next step typically is some sort of assessment, right? So that's where you'll have the opportunity to, let's say you're a great self-taught coder. Well, then you show off those skills by coding, and you show that even if you don't necessarily have the education or whatever, like especially for coding, there's so many great self-taught coders. That's where you demonstrate it and then move on to the next step. And then you talk about an interview. A lot of the things that we look at in interviews are actually soft skills. So it's kind of like, okay, great. You've explained it at first. You've demonstrated your technical, and then all you have to show is that you have strong soft skills, like Heidi was saying, like analytical thinking or problem solving, being able to communicate. And then once you think of all those steps, look at that, you're already qualified and you're in a pool or like being considered for a job. So I think it's just considering the important, elements for each step of a process so that you could be considered and hopefully land the job that you're really looking for.
No, I think that's great, Corinne, because sometimes I forget there's an actual process for hiring. You gotta be able to perform at each slot. So that makes sense. Christina, is there anything you'd like to add to this question?
Yeah, just quickly to add to what Corinne was saying about, resumes and applications. I also always tell people not to downplay experience gained outside of the workplace. So we recently hired a student who had experience working with some applications that we were using in our office, but their experience was through school, and they had done, full projects on these applications and understood how they worked. And to me, that was a great way to show that, they understood it, they had experience using it. It doesn't really matter where you get your experience, and I would always include that, whether it's through volunteer work, education, on your own time. Like it's still worth including it.
I just thought of one last thing based on what everyone's saying is don't be too shy to take at-level opportunities. It's not always about promotions. Move at level because you're already qualified at that level. You don't have to prove anything, but you can say, hey, I want to take this at-level opportunity. I want to develop these specific skills. Give me the opportunity to learn this, even though it's so you don't have to, oftentimes I think a lot of the proving yourself is in the getting into pools, getting into a promotional, getting into an acting. I think a lot of where I develop a lot of my skills is moving around to the same level, but a different file where I got to change my perspective on things and, learn a different topic area. And then that helped me, and especially in the area of data, changing files helped me figure out how to generalize my skills from the very, the very specific Excel spreadsheet that I fixed at first to figuring out, oh, okay, I actually know how to do data generally because I could apply those same principles to this other topic. So don't always just be thinking of the promotions. I know, we're, in this economy, I know we all want to be looking at that, but I think some of the best areas for growth is probably if you look at different things at the same level you're at.
Okay, awesome. I think we have time for one more question because it's related to what you just said, Heidi. Is the competition very fierce in the digital space? If we want to climb up the ranks, what should we do to lay the groundwork to secure our next learning opportunity or promotion? Heidi says, don't always look for promotions. Does anyone else on the panel have an opinion on this question? Okay, I can give Christina, go ahead.
I'll just say, I think there's a lot of opportunity in this space right now across the GC, whatever level you're kind of looking at, and there's always opportunity to, be upskilling yourself to climb the ranks if that's what you're looking for. And I would say also focus on your soft skills if that's specifically what you're looking to do. But I wouldn't say it's a very fierce competition, and that there's a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, just to add on that, as what I was mentioning before, which is finding a way to sell yourself focus on that too, because a lot of people have a very good technical skill. They've done great things, but they face a challenge in being able to show your manager, senior management, I'm having X impact, right? You got to be able to sell it. Right. And I encourage people, like when you do presentations, turn on your camera, be lively, put yourself next to the presentation. That seemed to work at my group. So give that a shot. Corinne, last comment on this. Do you have anything you'd like to add?
I echo that, especially with current climate and everything going on, that at-level opportunities is definitely a really good way of gaining new skills. And a lot of people are looking at level. Even now with the GC Digital Talent Platform, once you create a profile, if you're already internal, there's a way now of like being able and checking that you are interested like in your profile and anything that's at level, like just lateral movement. And we've been going there and looking at different, so it's pretty new. It's a new functionality in the last few months, but we've been looking at that and starting to reach out to people who are interested in that level opportunities. And there is a lot of interest in different organizations. So I think that's definitely a good way of gaining new skills. And there's a lot of possibilities there.
Okay, awesome. So just to quickly summarize, this has been a great session where we've learned about some of the career paths in the GC, what some of the panelists are doing for work. We talked about qualifications and competencies, and hopefully we answered some of your questions. I just want to close out the session by saying the Federal Youth Network is hosting a lot of in-person learning days and future leader forums across the country throughout the year. They've been adding new cities to the schedule, and you can find out if one is coming near you. Registration is free, and you don't want to miss out the opportunity to participate in person. As a final closeout, we'd like to do a polling question to ask to wrap up the session. So let's take a moment to answer the question, was this session a good use of your time? Hopefully. Okay. Oh, is this going to be live feedback for us, the panelists? That's scary. Okay, I don't think it is. All right, so I think we're going to close it out now. So thank you, everyone, for joining, and best of luck to you in your career. Don't be scared of the digital space. Just jump right in. And I speak for myself, but maybe the panelists as well. If you can reach out to me, I think my links are in there if you'd like to talk or ask additional questions. Yeah, I think we'll close it out. Thank you, everyone, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.